Fonzarelli Show.
So let's get with The Force Awakens. So I watched that yesterday, and you look at stuff with a fresh pair of eyes, and you think about things differently, knowing what we know now and knowing what's coming down the road, some things to be excited about. So, we open up with your classic, the Star Destroyer coming over the horizon, the classic, the looming Star Destroyer, and we cut right into the action. And much like in New Hope, they kind of just throw you into what's going on right there. We open up with Poe Dameron, the pilot. And then right away we have the stormtroopers coming in, the new breed of stormtroopers coming in from the First Order, which is the new galactic power that's risen from the ashes of the Empire. So the first thing we're introduced to is who will later be known as Finn, and it's the stormtrooper that deserted the First Order. And we watch his struggle from the beginning. They use a little visual tactics like the bloody handprint on the helmet. You could say it's cheap, but it does the job because now all of a sudden we could follow this stormtrooper, bloody handprint, and we know where he's going. So we're struggling with Finn as he's, we could see just the facial reactions. It's almost like, good puppeteering. You could just tell from the way he's looking and his body movements how he's just not happy with the First Order. And starting right off with Finn, The Force Awakens, one of the big critiques about it, and you could take it both ways, was, they kind of went safe with the visuals and just, you have your desert planet, you have your ice planet, and he's familiar, like even the pacing of the storyline, the droid with the secret plans. That was a lot of the, not a lot, but like one of the critiques was it kind of went like, note for note with A New Hope. And they considered like a half reboot. But then, the real gems are the original parts that you forget about, and one of them is Finn. I mean, Finn is an original Star Wars story. It's just the rebel stormtrooper. And right now, from the beginning, he's actually the hero that we follow as the other characters come into play. After the capture of Poe Dameron by Kylo Ren, Finn goes and rescues Poe, and they make their escape. And you have that friendship, and you're introduced to these characters. And a lot of the bonds that you find in this movie and like the fast developing relationships, I think they come through because when you're in like a terrible or dramatic situation with somebody, you have those bonds. So that element of like the fast pacing and the constant danger is what makes these guys get close, like, brothers in arms and that war thing. So these relationships are able to develop at a fast pace, and you get to learn these characters at a fast pace because of the pacing of the movie. So hats off to J.J. Abrams to that. Kylo Ren, he's awesome. The best thing you could say about Kylo Ren is that his frustration is that he's always comparing himself to Darth Vader, and he just flat out tells you, hey, I'm not as good as Darth Vader. So the audience finds himself being more forgiving to that. And he's got the visuals and everything to compare him to Darth Vader. And something I'm looking forward to Last Jedi is obviously the helmet's gone. Because now that, these characters have been established, we could break free a little bit. So what do you get from that? Now you could you spread your wings a little bit. We could take the mask off and like really delve into Kylo Ren. Now that we've set this sturdy foundation, there's characters and there's things I want to see. The humor, the balance of humor, and you still have that element danger. It was perfect. I've critiqued Transformers before. It's like you can't buy the depth of a situation if people were making jokes and acting silly. But Star Wars almost set the example of that pacing and that balance. Like Yoda says, it's balance. And it's that balance between humor and your element of danger. And, something we get from this that we didn't get, because the things that it parallels the original trilogy, it also kind of does some things better. I don't want to say better, but it takes some liberties that George Lucas didn't take with the original trilogy. And one of the things was you actually get to see the brutality of the First Order. George Lucas really didn't explore that so much. I mean, of course, obviously he blew up a planet. But I've been saying, like, in the small scale, the execution takes place right in the beginning of the movie. The execution of that small village where Poe was hiding. And that's like, that shows that brutality that the First Order is capable of. And that's also why Finn rejected him, and he also fears them and respects them because he knows what they're all about. So it's, all that stuff's great. Like, you can understand how that would happen. Like, from an old regime, I mean, this is a big widespread galaxy. So what you're going to get is that almost copycat regime rising from the ashes, and that's what the First Order is. It's from the ashes of the Empire. They say that in the opening crawl. And the real gem of the film is Rey. Daisy Ridley, unknown before this, definitely known now. She was great on Jakku. It's like a junkyard planet, very similar to Tatooine. The cool thing about that is the Battle Lab Jakku. Now, that was revisited later in one of the video games, which was Battlefront. But there was a Battle of Jakku, and obviously you see the fallen AT&T walkers. You see a crashed Star Destroyer, which is awesome. And, she's scavenging through these broken, machines and everything. You also see the kind of environment that she's in and why she actually has, she could take care of herself. And when Finn actually goes to rescue her from like a tough situation, you could see why he's like, whoa, she's got this. Right away they expose us to what makes these characters who they are. You kind of get to see, how Rey's a little self-reliant. She's a strong, the basic warrior. And she also shows, they set up a lot of things for later. Like, they show how she's self-taught with hand-to-hand combat, which is going to come into play later when she actually finally handles a lightsaber. So we're introduced to her. Her facial expressions are great. Her charisma and her personality. I mean, you fall in love with her from the beginning. Like, every time she smiles, it's like there's like this little glow. And, when you relate to a character and they have this good charisma, you could feel their triumphs and their losses. So you have Rey and you have Finn. They cross paths and they come together. You watch it again, and I'm still watching. Like, what? That relationship just grows real fast, and that chemistry grows, but it's believable. It's not forced. I mean, you go back to the prequels. I mean, and I love the prequels are great. The prequels gave us Anakin. They gave us Obi-Wan. They gave us the Clone Wars Rebels. So you got to accept the prequels as canon. But one of the things was it took 3 movies to develop a friendship between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I mean, you got a really solid relationship. And one of the things I'm looking forward to, jump ahead to the end of the movie, you don't even know what Finn's going to be doing in The Last Jedi. And I'm already excited to see, like, besides Luke's reunion with Leia, I'm also excited to see Rey and Finn's reunion, because both of them as characters, and that was the trick. You had to bring us back these old characters, but you had to give us new characters. Like, when these old characters are gone, Star Wars happened, and the galaxy recognizes that the Empire happened, the Jedi happened, the Rebellion happened, but now we're in a new age. And, there's remnants, but, it's a new world. And, as important as it is to bring back Han and bring back Leia and bring back Luke, it's really the ball is rolling on the new characters. Without the new characters, you have nothing, because you're not going to get Luke, Leia, and Han, definitely not Han, and definitely not Leia again for like the next 3. So everything's riding on these new characters. And once again, the trick was you got Daisy Ridley, who's an unknown character. So what you get is you don't look at her, and if you had like Leonardo DiCaprio, you'd know. You'd and they have brought in like the bigger celebrities like Samuel L. Jackson, but when you look at him, it's Samuel L. Jackson. So it's nice, like Daisy Ridley, you just look at her and you see Rey. Even in the Maybelline ad, it's like, oh, hey, there's Rey from Force Awakens, the Maybelline ad. But it helps you, when Han Solo started, he was an unknown. Harrison Ford, before he blew up, that was like his first big gig, was a Star Wars thing. Same with Mark Hamill, and it helps you like relate to those characters and those actors as those characters. So when we got to the escape from Jakku by Rey and Finn, the first thing we have is the re-encounter with Han Solo and Chewbacca. And then they make that iconic line. They both step back onto the Falcon, and they're like, Chewie, we're home. And you know what? The Millennium Falcon is a star of this movie, because it's an iconic ship, and even like the sloppy maneuvers, and even when Rey's like struggling to like learn how to drive the thing, that ship, I don't know, it just behaves consistently with like the way it used to. Even when it's just skating on the ground, just a sloppy hunk of junk. I mean, it's the Millennium Falcon. It's basically the first old friend we see before we see Han and Chewie. Chewbacca was great. Chewbacca was a solid Chewbacca in his element, and maybe a lot of that is the dynamic between the characters that JJ brought back was the Han and Chewie, like the two old buddies that just They know how to work with each other. They know each other's thoughts. That relationship is going to change as you get older. And I think this new trilogy did a good job of making that seem natural. And like I said, the comparisons and a lot of the problems with, like, hey, it mirrors A New Hope with the desert planet and the ice planet and everything. The important thing is, in the long run, it's not going to matter. Like Jedi, we got these fresh visuals. We got Luke. And you know what? I hope they don't just fan service us with Luke talking about Vader and old stuff he used to do. We know where Luke came from. So let's have Luke, little hints to where he's been between. I want to know more about, his feelings about the Kylo Ren situation. Oh, we got our first phone call. What's up, caller? You're on the Buzzarelli Show.
Hey, I just want to give a big shout out to Buzzarelli Show from Juwan.
Hey, what up, Juwan?
How you doing, buddy? You just keep doing your job, man. I just want to give you a good shout out, buddy.
Thanks for the call, Juwan. Good friend of the show. Thanks for calling in, man.
No problem, man. Have a good one, Joe.
You too, brother. Going on. Where did I leave off? I was talking about the okay, so in the long run, it's not going to, matter if these JJ gave us a solid foundation. So when we go down the road, it's going to be like, we have these established characters. So now I want to see them blossom. I want to see them change. I want to see different visuals, different stuff. I am excited about Luke. I'm still curious. Is he going to bust out the old green lightsaber? Is he going to bust out the white lightsaber? We don't know. So I'm going to see how that plays off. By the way, the visuals of TIE fighters zooming in on a Star Destroyer never get old. I mean, just coming on a Star Destroyer. You could play that over and over again. Even in Rogue One. It's like something about that visual. It's just nostalgic. It's familiar. We all love it. Looking forward to that. Another thing that's different and another gem of this movie that makes it different than everything else is General Hux. Now that is something real interesting. Like the relationship between Hux and Kylo Ren, that is fresh and original. If you compare it to the relationship between Vader and Tarkin, where you have that dark Sith Lord, and Tarkin's just kind of got him on a leash, like Leia joked, and they're kind of on the same page. This is a different relationship because Hux himself, I think Hux has a tougher road to go to be compared to the new Tarkin. Even though he's just brutal, blowing up planets and blew up the republics. But what I do like about Hux is I like that like his little brother thing going on with Kylo Ren. I like that little like, I told you show. Every time they go to Snoke, it's like, ooh, what did you do? And he goes, Hux is just throwing him under the bus left and right. He's like, Kylo thought it'd be wise to leave the droid because he thought the girl was enough, referring to the part where Rey escapes. So that dynamic I like, and that Hux by himself wouldn't have sold me much, but that dynamic that he had with Kylo really sold me on him. So that was really good. Looking forward to seeing more Hux. The other problem is Captain Phasma, and this has been said before, and I want to give a shout out to Rebel Force Radio, and I heard this on their podcast, I want to make sure I give them credit, but and it's really like kind of just out there in fandom anyway. But the big problem with Phasma, she was underused, and I know Phasma is the chrome-plated female leader of the stormtroopers. That part where Finn and Han Solo, they capture her and they imprison her while they're shutting down the new Death Star, Star Killer base. It's like, why did she agree to shut down the shields? Like, wouldn't you give your life for the First Order? So, and that's what's been said before. My question is now is if Phasma is going to be in the next movie, how do you justify that? Like, what did she say to Snoke? Like, well, oh, my bad. Like, how does she still have any place with anything with all this? I don't understand. They're bringing her back, and, one of the good things, I take it as a flaw, a writing flaw, like people just didn't think ahead. But down the road, I don't see how she recovers from that and keeps her standing with the First Order. I don't understand how she keeps her standing. Like, oh, my bad. Hey, don't do it again. I don't get, but we're going to see, because she's in the IMDb. She's going to be in Jedi. I would rather see her, rejected and on the run, like the disgraced captain, and kind of be just kind of come from the side, causing some trouble. Kylo Ren and Finn, that's awesome. I like that relationship because Kylo just from the beginning, you just kind of sensed that rebellion or that disdain brooding within Finn. And, the whole movie, it was traitor. That was another personal, besides the Han Solo stuff, is the Kylo Finn dynamic. There's a lot of different relationships established really quick. And that's the beauty of The Force Awakens, is you really set a solid foundation. Yes, it was safe, but it is solid. And you move forward with this. I mean, you know, in the beginning, I was like, when I first saw the first Jedi teaser drop, I'm guessing another Jedi teaser is going to drop soon. But it was like, you know, I'm looking forward to, oh, yeah, Luke. Oh, Luke talks. Oh, yeah, hooray, Luke. But now I forget, and you watch Force Awakens again, and it's like, no, I want to see Rey. I want to see Rey swinging a lightsaber. That's another thing they did well, was after Han Solo's confrontation with Kylo, and Kylo takes that shot in the stomach from Chewie. And this was very good planning, because he takes that shot, and we've seen the power of Chewie's crossbow earlier in the movies, and they did it on purpose, because they also showed us two things that were important. Because when you get to that lightsaber fight in the end, in the snow, which is Finn is the first one to pick up a lightsaber, but he already kind of established that the stormtroopers are trained to hand-in-hand combat. You don't have to be a Jedi to swing a stick around. You just got to know how to fight. So you could buy that, and you know, but it's Kylo's obvious injury. You see them bleeding in the snow, and that's what makes it that Finn and Rey are able to keep up with him. And Finn does a good job, and he's basically outforced by Kylo, because Finn has no force powers, and that's basically what got him. And then Rey does have her force powers. But even, you know, in the beginning of that lightsaber thing, yeah, she developed with the force pretty quick. And a lot of that, I believe, and I'm jumping back and forth again, but a lot of her growth in the force, first of all, I think it was grabbing Luke's lightsaber, because that thing has a big history throughout everything, throughout the prequel trilogy, throughout the sequel. It was Anakin's lightsaber. It was Luke's. It's like, oh, the stories that lightsaber can tell. So that's like an iconic. I mean, that's the chosen ones, whether it's Luke's or Vader's the chosen one, but it's some chosen one's lightsaber. I mean, it's a Skywalker lightsaber. So you touch that, then you have the probing by Kylo, and that is activating something within her. So yeah, the Force is kind of developing kind of quickly. But really, in that lightsaber fight, and we do know she's good at hand-to-hand combat, but, you know, it's a little sloppy. She's running, she's scared, and she's kind of, you know, batting a little bit, and it's when in that final moments where she learns to, like, tap into the Force, and it's in a moment of desperation. And it's like the old story of the woman and the car's on her kid, and the woman gets the strength of 10 men and lifts the car. It's like in that adrenaline-based situation is when Rey finally taps into the Force and kicks the crap out of Kylo Ren, and that was just awesome. I mean, she was just like standing like, what? What's up? And that was really just awesome. And just, you know, splits there. You know, we see Leia. Of course, we have that another flaw that's been talked about is, you know, I was watching it, like I said, you watch it again, you get to think about things differently. And one of the critiques was, how come Chewie, with what happened to Han, walked by Leia and not say a word when everybody gets back together? You know, it looked like Chewie, like, wouldn't they share a hug or some kind of moment with both of their relationships to Han? And I'm going to look at it again, and I've come up in my head, it's like, the way they could fix that mistake is you gotta bite it in the beginning, and Leia's gotta like come up to Chewie and be like, you gotta talk to me. It's not your fault. You gotta make it that Chewie was so ate up with guilt he didn't want to confront Leia, and just fix that little mistake right off the bat and move on like a champ. But you know, right at the end we got Luke, and you know, I want to see some more of Snoke's history. The new director is kind of alluding to we're not going to see that, which I'm a little disappointed in, because I wanted Snoke to be a little deeper than being another emperor. I wanted some kind of like divisive machination. You know, what's his point of view? What's his goal? But maybe what the director said was, you know, he just needs to be the bad guy behind the bad guy, like the Emperor was. And his critique was during the prequels, maybe we got to know the Emperor too much. And Kevin, who's been on the show a lot, has said that as well. He's like, I would have liked it better if the Emperor was kind of controlling things in the background. So maybe that is better. I just want to know some kind of like history of him, Luke. I want to know Luke's reactions to things. I want to know Luke's reaction to Han's situation. I know it's been talked about. We got a Luke and Leia reunion we're looking forward to. So, you know, lots of good stuff coming down the road. Thanks for tuning in. It's your first time listening to the show. If you just stumbled on me on YouTube Live, you could find everything at bunzarelli.com. Thanks for listening, guys, and we're going to see you in a couple weeks.